welcome back to another episode of Platinum. It's been a hot minute. In that time, I have grown hair. These are dark times indeed. But today we've got a really good account with Ballcap Gamers. Ballcap has 104 Platinums, I believe it is, for a completion rate of about 77.5%. So let's jump in and take a look at the list, shall we? And so starting off this list with an absolute cracker. Wow, we're 2 seconds in and I'm already flubbing words. I haven't done this for a month. We're off to a great start. A for effort, tap on the shoulder. But we have a great game to start this list with, A Hat in Time, which is a very, very good platformer, I believe, that has really, really hard DLC. As you can see there, 34% for the Platinum and only 2% for the 100%. So crazy jump in difference. We then have A Way Out, which is the two-person escape prison game made by the same people that do things like It Takes Two. We then have Among Us, smashed out just the base game in a week. You haven't done the DLC yet, Ballcap. I am curious, will you be doing that at some point? I do know a few people in the Platinum Standard. Shout out to the Discord, do join, I'll say hello. I do know that there are people in there looking for the DLC if you did want to hook up with a few people and get that done. We then have some Ape Escape, which of course is a port of the classic PS1 game. Much loved Ape Escape. I think 2 of them are on PS Plus Premium. I'm not entirely sure. I do need to get these done myself. I do have the first one installed. Only 2 trophies in Apex. I can deal with it. I can live with it. I'm okay. Everything's okay. I love Apex, so seeing this here with 2 trophies does hurt my soul. I am curious, what was your reasoning behind stopping it? I assume you just weren't a fan of the Battle Royale. Maybe you like something like Warzone better. But you do make up with it with the PS3 Platinum for Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, which means you were Abstergo Employee of the Month, so congratulations to you, mate. And we do have the 100% in Revelations, which means that you did that really annoying DLC where you play as a square. Yes, the game about assassins has a DLC where you were a cube. I need to do it myself. I've been very, very lazy. I should just get around to that at some point. Soon-ish, maybe. I don't know. I've got like a million games on the old backlog these days. We then have some Astros Playroom, 100%. I assume this was probably your first PS5 Platinum, like most of us, of course. Asura's Wrath is next, followed by... Ooh, these are impressive. I like this. The 100% in Arkham Asylum, the Platinum in City, and the Platinum in Arkham Knight. I don't blame you for skipping out on those DLC challenge maps. They are hard. Especially City. I would say City's probably got the worst ones. I think it's either City or Origins, but I think it is City, has the map where you're on a train and it's like a side scroller as opposed to the rest of the open-end arena maps. Actually really, really tricky. I haven't done it on Symmetry for good reason. I should. Another series I'd love to do at some point. I'm just lazy. We then have some Bioshock here with the first game, the second game, and the third game. You have the first 100%, which I would say probably has the hardest of the DLCs. Some of those time challenges are actually pretty tricky. 2 is probably the easiest, which is also the one that I'm missing because I'm lazy. And then Infinites is just annoying. The arena map DLC is a pain. Hitting wave 20 in a bunch of maps, not fun at all. Thankfully, the hardest trophy can be glitched. If you play Burial at Sea first, and you make sure that the Ribbons trophy from the Arena DLC is the last trophy you have left, it will pop upon completion of Burial at Sea 2. Very, very nice. Enjoyed it big time myself. We then have Bloodborne. You dabbled in it, you weren't a fan, you put it down. That's fair. I actually finally went back and finally cleaned this up in my month-long abscess. I love this game. Bloodborne is incredible. Definitely one I would like to see you maybe go back and clean up at some point. Ballcap. We then have, got another juicy one here. Borderlands 1's Platinum, Borderlands 2's Platinum, Borderlands 3's Platinum, and pre-sequel's 100%. So you did the Temple of Boom, and now my feelings are hurt because that trophy glitched on me and I have to do an entire playthrough of pre-sequel all over again. This is truly the dark timeline indeed. I would be curious, do you plan on maybe doing the DLC in some of these? I know the first game's DLC is pretty cruisy, besides the one grindy RNG trophy in the Claptrap DLC, I believe it is. Two's got some banger DLC, actually. If you can get the Platinum, 2's DLC is quite good. That's what I would definitely rate. And 3's DLC, I liked, I think it was Guns, Love and Tentacles. The Hammerlock Wedding DLC was pretty good, but the rest of them were really forgettable, and that second season pack is not worth the 30 Australian dollars that they charge you on sale for it. I think it was closer to $60 at full price, which is crazy. No, I am not doing that. But otherwise, absolutely fantastic game. We then have some Concrete Genie here. I assume you also don't have a VR. That was my hurdle for the 100% for a good few years there, but the game itself is very, very charming. You play as a boy in an industrial town who wants to bring color to the town, so he's drawing monsters on walls and stuff. They're coming to life and following him around, because why not, I guess? If you're a wall monster, what else are you gonna do, I guess? We then have Controls 100%. This is a great one, of course. I do like the DLC that has Alan Wake references in it quite a bit. The other DLC, the one that's in the red salt mines, I think it was, that sucked for me at least. I was not quite as big a fan of that one, I must say. Crash Bandicoot, you're halfway in. I assume a lot of what you were missing are things like the relics, perhaps. This is a series that I'm always like, oh, I should, and then I remember that I'm bad at games. Darksiders is next, and you got a good chunk here. You've got the first game's 100%, you love to see it. Genesis, you've dabbled in. This is kind of, each Darksiders, for those who don't know, is like a different genre each game, essentially. So the first one's kind of like a Zelda clone, I guess, like a 3D Zelda clone. Darksiders Genesis is essentially just Diablo. Darksiders 2 takes a lot of elements from things like Skyrim, for example. You got different armor sets that do different perks and all that sort of stuff, random loot, all that sort of fun goodies. And then Darksiders 3 is Dark Souls. And I personally actually really like that one. In fact, the DLC in Darksiders 3 is actually pretty good. That's one I would definitely perhaps recommend should you want to go back and clean something up. We then have Days Gone, post-apocalyptic zombie motorbike game. It's good. I would say Days Gone is good. I would say the open world is pretty generic. The driving mechanics are good, and the DLC sucks, and that's why I understand that you have not done it yet. They took a realistic, slow game, and they put time attack and score stuff on it and everything, and that's not fun. Don't do that. No, not necessary. We then get some Death Stranding here, which is Norman Reedus in a post-apocalyptic goo world. It's wacky, it's weird, you're a post officer essentially, and I still haven't got around to this myself. 4 weeks, very, very fast. You blew through that, which is actually pretty impressive. We then get some Deep Rock Galactic, which you've dabbled in. Haven't got far. I can see you did it in January of last year, which I believe is when it was free on PS Plus. I've heard it's a beefy one. I've heard that you need sort of a pretty efficient team of, say, 4 people to get a lot of these done. But otherwise, that would be a very impressive platinum to get at a 0.8% completion rate. Devil May Cry is next. I believe that's the remake, and the reason, or the reimagining, I guess you would call it. And the reason I say that is he's got the white hair that everyone hated. And then we've got Dragon Ball Xenoverse to roll out the Ds. Alrighty, and next up we have Elden Ring, which is another Souls game that you dabbled in a little bit. Didn't get too far, but look of it, 3 out of 42 trophies. I'm curious as to if it's just not a style of game that you're necessarily too interested in, or if it's just a case of them being very beefy and you put them down to play other things and just do what I do and never go back. We then have Erica, smashed out in 3 days and 21 hours, followed by a cheeky auto pop of Fall Guys. I like it, it's cheeky, and the original version of the, I assume, well, no, this would be the European one, I guess. This is just the original release is what OR stands for, but I'm curious as to why it doesn't have the region next to it. I assume you are NA, given that you also have Final Fantasy 15 as an NA game here, but it is nice to see that you did smash this out. and it looks like you might have done it before the infallible glitch, which is actually really, really impressive because I believe that was May of 2021. So congratulations there. Final Fantasy 15, there is 10 unobtainable trophies, as you can see there. I will say they are technically obtainable. If you own the game physically, I believe, I don't think you can do it digitally, but I would hit up PSNP if I am wrong, of course. And what you can do is you can reverse patch the game to a point where the comrades can be accessed, because that just became its own standalone multiplayer mode for some reason. So they made it impossible to access the launcher through Final Fantasy 15. But if you reverse the patch, you can still play it technically. Game of Thrones Telltale, you smashed that out in a day and 4 hours. You did follow this by Ghost of Tsushima, which I think 55 trophies, that is just the base game. There is, of course, a New Game Plus DLC. Ghost of Ishi Island has two DLC packs, technically. The quests and exploration are split separately for some reason. And then, of course, you've got the raid mode, which is something I'm currently working on with some good friends in the Discord. We then have Ghost Runner here. You've smashed out just the base game in a month. I adore Ghost Runner. This game is so fun. It's essentially a first-person, very fast-paced combat game where you are running over walls, jumping, flipping through a futuristic dystopia sort of city, I guess you would call it. Enemies can kill you in one shot. There is an assist mode, which lets you get killed in two shots, which makes it easier. I will say, if you play on assist mode and you plan on doing the DLC, you're probably in for a nasty surprise, because the DLC doesn't have assist mode, so you have to play it legit, and it's actually pretty tricky. Ghost Simulator smashed out the platinum, but not the 100%. I like to see that right there. You got the Flappy Bird. I was actually, funny enough, looking at this game this morning as a tempting one to do myself. I do know that all of the DLC's on sale for like $6 Australian as of the time of this recording. So Bullcap, that's probably one that's like dirt cheap for you too, if you did want to go back and clean up those DLCs. I know the DLCs are quite a lot of weird, wacky fun. You've got ones that are like Skyrim and World of Warcraft knockoffs. Well, I think one of them is based on Payday for some reason, and one of them is like a zombie apocalypse. So a lot of good fun there. We then get into some very juicy God of Wars, which I always love to see, of course, with the first God of War on the PS3's 100%. You did the challenges. I love to see it. God of War 2018, 2, 3 remastered, and God of War Ragnarok. Obviously, the originals have the challenge maps that are actually fairly tricky. I often, anytime I go back and platinum God of War 3, because I've done it several times over the years, there's a few that are quite annoying. I remember there's one where you got to break a whole bunch of urns. I think it's 30 urns in 30 seconds or something. That's actually a pain in the butt. And then a couple of the other ones are quite annoying too. I think there's one where you are a stone statue, and if you shatter, you fail the challenge. That's quite difficult. And I think there's another one where you've got to kill a certain amount of minotaurs in a certain amount of seconds without being hit once, which is actually pretty tricky too. And then, of course, you've got 2018 and Ragnarok, which are a more modernized Last of Us clone take on God of War. They're still really good. I just miss the old ones where you felt like a god and not just an old dude who can lift trees and rocks. Golf with your friends, you smashed out the base game, not the 100%. This is another game I actually kind of want to do at some point. I do like a good cheeky golf game. We then got Gotham Knights. You dabbled in it. Actually, well, you did it about 4 days ago as of recording this. You got a little ways in. I am curious, is this one that you do plan on continuing? Followed by some GTA 5, which you've only done 2 trophies of for a grand total of 1%. This is another really beefy one. Both of these, of course, were you to wrap them up, you would get a big buff in your completion rate, which is always very nice to see, or at least if you're like me and you care about a completion rate. Hollow Knight's 100%. We had Hollow Knight was our game of the month in the Platinum Standard Discord, link in the description below. This month's game is Assassin's Creed Unity. It finally won after like 2 months of being runner-up. It finally got the win. It beat Returnal by a single vote, which is terrifying. Hollow Knight's a lot of fun. It's a Metroidvania. You play as a little bug going into a bug kingdom. There's a lot of other evil bugs to kill. There's a lot of collectibles. Well, not necessarily collectibles. You got to complete a combat field guide by killing every enemy a certain amount of times. And I was Not prepared for that endgame grind. I spent like a day doing that, which was... Now I have hair. Wow, it's weird being able to say the opposite. It used to be, and now I'm bald, and now I've got a head of hair. It's changing times. My hair transplant. I'm kidding. This is all natural. I actually just got it off my knees, my hairy knees. I just glued it on before the recording. But yeah, I did that for a day, did all those insects, and now I have a head of hair. So miracles do happen. If you are bald, play Hollow Knight. You'll get an afro by the end of it. 10 out of 10. Would bug again. We then have Horizon Forbidden Dawn. You've done the Frozen Wilds DLC, but you haven't done the New Game Plus, which is interesting to see there. I will say, if you did want to knock those out, I did it in about an afternoon. You get the armor set that lets you be invincible, and then you just fat roll all the way for all the missions. Skip all the enemies, they don't matter. Just fat roll from point A to point B. They can't stop you from getting to objectives, which makes it very easy. Just fat roll to success. Next up, we got Infamous 1 and 2, which is always very, very nice to see, especially the first game with all of the many shards that are not tracked on any map, which makes them an absolute nightmare to hunt down. And there's a reason I don't do PS3 Platinums anymore. We then get the Jak games with all 4 of them. I don't see combat racing too often, so I like to see that there ball cap. But we have Jak 3 in 2 months, Jak and Daxter the Precursor Legacy in 3 weeks, Jak 2 in 4 months, and combat racing in 3 weeks. So noticing a theme. One of them takes you a couple months, another one takes you the equivalent in weeks, and vice versa two times. It's always nice to see. I like to see Jak 2 done without the debug menu. Congratulations there. We then have Journey, which is a game I would love to do, but I can't match up with my mate to save our lives. We've tried a couple times. It always ends in loneliness. And now I'm sad. We then have Jumanji here, which I've never heard a single good thing about. Followed, I think that's based on the movie that has The Rock in it from memory. We then have Just Cause 3's Platinum, The King of Medici. That is an impressive one to see right there. You did all the 110, I think it is, challenges. Some of them are very annoying. Another one I'd like to eventually get around to myself. We then have some Killzone here with the first game, which I believe doesn't have multiplayer. I can't fully remember, if I'm honest. And Killzone 2 definitely has multiplayer. And unfortunately, I'm going to take an educated guess and say that 43 is more than 16. So unfortunately, you're not able to get the unobtainable trophies, which does suck. I'm sorry for you. We then get a massive stack of Kingdom Hearts here with the first game's Platinum, 0.2 Birth by Sleep, A Fragmentary Passage at 61%, followed by Dreamed Up Distance, 2, 3, Melody of Memories, and Rechain of Memories, which is a very impressive stack of Kingdom Hearts, which is weirdly a series that we've seen quite a few times with some beefy, impressive stacks on this series. It's cool to see. I do like it quite a bit. Only one Lego game here with Lego Indiana Jones 2 The Adventure Continues, which was only on the PS3 and I believe the Vita potentially. You didn't quite get the Platinum. I assume you have maybe some grindy stud stuff left over. Followed by Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy in 5 days, which this was a funny game for me. I did like it quite a bit. I just hated the combat. I don't know. There's something about AAA modern over-the-shoulder combat that really sucks. And I'll say it, at least for me, it started with The Last of Us. I like The Last of Us. I want to make that clear, but the combat was never really a big thing for me. And it's just God of Wars is now the same, Guardians of the Galaxy is the same. I just don't enjoy it, and I don't necessarily know why I don't enjoy it. I just don't. But the environments and the story were fantastic in this one. I was actually really pleasantly surprised. Jeez, I can't speak. I'm just learning I can't speak English and I have wild hot takes. That's essentially all this series is. And everyone else has really, really good accounts, which you love to see. But we've got Marvel's Midnight Suns next. This was a game made by the devs that did XCOM. I've heard that pretty much everything they put out for this breaks the game and makes trophies difficult to pop, which is not fun. I don't like that very much. But otherwise, this is another game I'm semi-interested in. We've got both Spider-Man games here with Marvel Spider-Man and Miles Morales. I need to do Miles Morales at some point. If it's only 3 days, that's tempting. I also just noticed I have the worst. I've been playing games all day because I don't have a life, and I had the headband on, and look at that ridge. That is a savage ridge. I have to think about not tightening those headphones too bad, because that is impressive right there. That's an impressive ridge. We then have some Mass Effect here with the first game's 100% on the PS4. You've only dabbled one trophy on the PS3's one, and then you've got the Legendary Edition, which I think was the companion stack. So Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 came out in a collection, and then I think there was a 4th list called Legendary, which has cross progression from between the games, and has a lot of combat-based trophies. We then have both Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor at just the platinum, not the 100%. Weirdly enough, you have 72% in both, which is kind of cool. It's an interesting little statistic right there. We then have the 100% of Minecraft Set 2, but not the 100% in Set 1. And I'm going to take a guess. The 2 combat DLCs, aren't they? 3 and 7 or whatever they are. The ones I can't stop looking at it now. That is impressive. I'm going to just not wear headphones whenever I'm going to record from now on, because I look ridiculous. But I believe those are the combat challenges right there. Those took me like a year, because if you buy the game after a certain period of time, you just don't have access to those DLC packs. And I don't think that's been fixed. I'm not entirely sure. The fact that PSNP is not marking it as unobtainable has me sus that it might have been fixed. Definitely maybe look into that if you want to get it done. If you can get it done, it takes half an hour tops to do both DLC packs. We then get Nickelodeon's All-Stars Brawl. You did in 2 days, followed by No Man's Sky. You haven't done the hardcore trophies, I believe those are. Onrush is next, which is now unobtainable, so it is impressive to see that you did get that platinum early. Ooh, PlanetSide 2, that is a beefy one to have on your account right there. As you can see, only 0.01% of people have this trophy. I believe it's like a 10,000 hour grind or something ridiculous. Good luck if you ever decide to go back to it. It's crazy to think it's only got 12 trophies as well. We then have some PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. My good friend Shaz is currently going for this as well. I've heard it's semi-rough with some of the modes still being occupied with players, but you can get a lot of the trophies with bots, which is very, very nice. We then get a decent little collection of Ratchet & Clanks here with the first game, the 2016 remaster, 2 Going Commando, and 3 Up Your Arsenal, and then of course the PS5 exclusive, A Rift Apart. I still think to this date that Up Your Arsenal is personally my favorite. I'd also like to say YouTube, I said Arsenal, so don't smack me on the bottom and ban me forever, please. But yeah, I would say that 3 is definitely my favorite. Rift Apart was good. It's very pretty. That's about all that I got from it. I don't really remember too much of what happened, to be perfectly honest with you. But it was solid. It was okay. And I weirdly like the 2016 reimagining of the first game. It's okay. I don't like that they took away content from the original, but it's still solid. I think the gameplay is definitely good. We then have Red Dead 1's Platinum, not the 100%. I assume you just don't want to do that DLC grind at some point. Remnant from the Ashes, same sort of deal. This is one I really need to do at some point. I just have a lot of grinding, like the scrap and stuff like that. And then, of course, you've got the notorious Swamp of Corvus that at some point I will get around to. It is just not this day. We then have Returnal, which nearly won our Platinum Club for the month. It got pipped out, sadly, but this is essentially a roguelike where you're an astronaut on a foreign planet, and you have to work out how you crash land there. You die, you go back to the start. I've heard the collectibles are kind of annoying with the RNG of rooms not being guaranteed spawns, but it's nothing compared to, say, something like Hades in terms of RNG hell. We then have Res Infinite, followed by Rise of the Tomb Raiders Platinum. I am jealous of that. I have about half of the time and score attack challenges left myself. I do have quite a lot of the DLC done though, and average. It's average DLC. The more I think about it, the more I was not a fan of those DLCs, but they're okay. We then have some Rocket League here with the base game done as well. I'm going to take an educated guess, Ball Cap, and say that you might not necessarily care about DLC. I'm guessing you might clean it up when it sort of falls on your path or you get it with the game, but you're not necessarily someone who's going to go back and spend money on a game that you've already finished, which is fair enough. We then have Shovel Knight's Treasure Trove, followed by Sly 2 and Sly 1, the Thievius Raccoonus. Sniper Elite 4, I love to see that platinum right there. That's a juicy one. Great game. You play as a sniper, essentially. Go figure. Who would have guessed? Who is single-handedly fighting off the Germans in World War II. If this guy had been real, the war would have been over in about 4 days. He is a one-man tank. You've got some Sonic here with Sonic Forces and Frontiers, which is the newer one that I've heard good things about. Sonic Goes Open World was not a combination I thought would work, but I've heard really good things. We then get some Split Second here on the PS3. That's a juicy ultra rare of a 4.88%, followed by the Spyro trilogy, which is always really nice to see. This is another trilogy. I didn't grow up with Spyro myself, so I don't have those ties, but I should just go and get them done. I know that they're all relatively short. Maybe I will knock those out soon on my path to Platinum 250. We then get some Star Wars Battlefront 2 here, which is fun. It's okay. The only thing that I didn't like about Battlefront 2 is how long it dragged on to do. You had to get to the max level in the multiplayer, which essentially was just every Wednesday there's triple XP, load up co-op, play it by yourself, get as much XP as you can, rinse and repeat the next week, which was kind of I wasn't the biggest fan of that personally. We then have Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which is of course the Star Wars Dark Souls kind of clone. That's very, very good. I quite like this one, and I am looking forward to Fallen Beard very soon. The guy's got a beard. That's all I really know about the promos. I'm trying to keep it very, very make it a surprise for myself when I do get around to playing it, hopefully soon. Starlink Battle of Atlas is next, followed by Steep, which is the Ubisoft snowboarding game, with the Olympics DLC, which I believe has been delisted. I think I have that DLC myself, so I should probably knock that platinum out at some point, because a 2.3% platinum, that's juicy. You love to see that right there. We then have some Strangers of Paradise, a Final Fantasy Origin, which is a Dark Souls Final Fantasy clone. I find it interesting that you seem to like the spin-off, like the games that take inspiration from Souls more than Souls itself. That's a interesting note to see here. We then have Strays 100%, cat game. It's okay. It's okay. Last Guardian is actually one that I'm really, really impressed by. So this game has some balls trophies. You got to see every tooltip. So hope those pop up when you need them on the loading screens. You've got to get the beast to cooperate with you for speed runs, and I do know he deliberately doesn't listen to your every word or isn't necessarily efficient in doing what you ask him, because he's an animal. He's not going to take your direct command, and that's interesting. It's a really cool gameplay mechanic, but that sucks when you've got a speed run that you're trying to get through. So very impressive platinum right there. I actually really like seeing that ball cap. We then have The Last of Us Remastered. Again, you've done the platinum, but you haven't done Left Behind. That's not what it's called. I can't remember what the DLC is called, but you haven't done the DLC with Ellie. You have done all the Firefly stuff, though, which is super impressive to see. The Witnesses 100%. This is another one I really, really like seeing here. This is a puzzle game on an island. It's a funny one because you can do 99% of the game by just following guides, but the last puzzle is random, and it's got a timer of, I think it's 15 minutes, and that catches so many people out who haven't been actually doing the puzzles and aren't prepared for it. It's pretty funny to see. We then have some Tiny Tina here with Assault on Dragon Keep, which is a standalone version of the Borderlands 2 DLC from like a decade ago, followed by Wonderlands, which is a plat I did myself very recently. This is a standalone game. I actually think that Wonderlands might have the best gameplay of any Borderlands game, which is kind of crazy to think. but the DLC is awful. It's just 4 maps, and each map you have to play 4 times, which is ridiculous. Shout out to my good friend Shaz, who carried me through it and made sure I didn't have to do 2 of the maps legit. But I just hopped in his world and he steamrolled everything, and I sort of stood in the background like a little cheerleader going, "Hey! This is great." We then get some Tom Clancy's The Division 2, followed by the PS3 version of the reboot of Tomb Raider. You also did the med pack grind to level 60. Bad times are bad. We then get some juicy Uncharted here with the remasters of 2, 3, 1, and Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy. You haven't done the brutal or the speed runs in the remasters of 1 through 3. You haven't done that god-awful DLC in 4, which is one I need to do myself at some point soon. But you did get the 100% in Lost Legacy, so that's nice to see, and I love to see all of the platinums there. It's a juicy collection right there. We then have Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt, which was like a battle royale game based on the vampire games from the early 2000s. Those really good RPGs. I've heard average things about the Masquerade. Do let me know if it is worth trying. We then have our last platinum on the list, We Were Here, which is essentially a teamwork puzzle escape room sort of thing. You and a teammate are trapped in a castle and you must escape. What Remains of Edith Finch is a walking simulator where you return to the family house of your family and find the fates of everyone that did live there. There was a curse where everyone in your family died, and you're finding out what happened to each of them. It's actually really, really cool. It's probably one of my favorite walking sims. I adore What Remains of Edith Finch. You can get it done in like an hour if you know what you're doing. And then last on the list, Zombie Army 4 Dead War, which is an amazing game that I'm fastest achiever on. Suck that, Bruce, man. But it's a fantastic game. You and a team of up to 3 other people facing waves of zombies. This one has awful DLC. There's like 4 DLC packs. None of them are priced accordingly. All of them have like 1 trophy. All of them are kind of grindy, but the game itself is amazing and I highly recommend. But let's go up to Ballcap stats now real quick. So if we take a gaze at statistics here, we can see 131 games played for a 43% average rarity, which is always nice to see. Always like to see it be less than 50%. Your average completion is about 77%, which makes sense based on the fact that a lot of the DLCs are not necessarily things that you seem to enjoy going back and potentially tackling. Do, of course, let me know if that is wrong in the comments. Your monthly activity, fairly consistent. You like to hit around sort of the 50s to 150s by the look of it, with January of last year being your peak with 178 trophies, and you've always been climbing. You've earned a trophy at every hour slot, so go get some sleep. You deserve it. Clap, clap. I'm very impressed, but go get a good night's sleep. I've actually never have. I think there's a couple of hours in the middle, like 4 a.m. I'm not getting up to at 4 a.m. for a trophy. I need my beauty sleep. I look like a cinder block, so I need that beauty sleep. But otherwise, this has been Ballcap Gamers list. It's good to be back. I missed you all. If you got this far, do let me know if pineapple belongs on pizza in the comments below. Do let me know what you've been playing, and I'll see you in next week's one. Of course, real quick, if you would like your own list looked at, leave it in the comments below or join the Discord. Leave it down there and I'll add it to the list. Anyway, this has been another episode. Ballcap, brilliant account. I really enjoyed looking at it. I like seeing Kingdom Hearts completion there. Very impressive. I like seeing Uncharted's, and I'll see you all very soon for the next episode. It won't be a month again. I pinky promise. I'll reach out with me pinky. There it is. Pinky promise it won't take that long. I just needed a bit of a break. I was feeling a little bit burnt out of content. So I'll see you very soon. I miss you already. Goodbye.